She did not scream when her father told her she was being married. That was what scared her most. Lydia May Carter stood in the middle of the cabin, hands clenched at her sides, listening as if he were talking about the weather, about wood prices, about something that did not end her life as she knew it. Her chest felt hollow. Her ears rang. She nodded once, though she did not remember deciding to move her head. "You will do this," her father said, "or we lose everything." She opened her mouth to beg. No sound came out. The choice had already been made. By the time the cabin door opened and the stranger stepped inside, Lydia knew this was no dream. This was not a threat meant to scare her into obedience. This was the end of one life and the start of something cold and unknown. She lifted her eyes to the man who had come to claim her and wondered if she would survive what came next. The wind shoved snow through the open door. A tall figure filled the frame, broad shoulders brushing the wood. He ducked inside without a word. Furs and leather covered him. Ice clung to his beard. Melted snow pooled at his boots. "This is him," her father said. "The mountain man." The townsfolk called him Owen Hale. Some said that was not his real name. Others said he had not spoken to a woman in years. Lydia had heard enough whispers to know one thing. Nobody wanted to be the mountain man's wife. Owen Hale did not look at her right away. He stood still, letting the door close behind him, letting the cold settle. When his eyes finally lifted, they were gray and tired. Not cruel, not kind, just worn down. Her father rushed forward with false cheer, waving a paper and a pen. The debt, the agreement, the marriage contract. $800 in gold had already changed hands. She felt sick. Lydia stepped forward before she could stop herself. "I will not sign," she said. Her voice shook, but it was loud enough. "I will not go." Her father's hand came down hard on the table. "You belong to me until you are married, and I say you will be." She turned to Owen Hale, desperate. "You do not want this," she said. "You can see I do not want this." For a long moment he studied her. The cabin was quiet except for the wind outside and her own breathing. Then he picked up the pen. The scratch of his name on the paper sounded final. "The debt is paid," he said. "She comes with me." The words landed like a locked door. She packed in silence. Her mother's Bible, a sewing kit, 2 dresses. That was all. When she came back into the main room, her father did not look at her. He poured himself a drink instead. Owen took her bag and walked out into the storm. The ride to town passed in silence. Snow swallowed the road. Lydia's fingers went numb on the reins. She tried not to think about where they were going or what waited at the end of it. The ceremony was done on a trading post porch. Fast. Cold. Rushed. The preacher would not meet her eyes. Men stared. Someone laughed. "Do you take this man?" the preacher asked. She hesitated. "Say it," a voice called from behind her. "Or your father hangs." Lydia lifted her head. She met Owen's eyes again. Still no hunger there. No triumph. Only that deep tiredness. Something else, too. Something she could not name. "I do," she whispered. By sunset, she was no longer Lydia Carter. She was Lydia Hale. They left town as the light bled red across the mountains. No one waved. No one followed. The wind erased their tracks behind them. Night fell hard in the high country. By the time they reached the cabin, Lydia could no longer feel her feet. She slid from the saddle and nearly collapsed. Owen caught her elbow. His grip was firm but careful. He let go the moment she steadied. Inside, the cabin was warm. Clean. Ordered. Not the lair she had imagined. A fire burned low. Shelves were neat. Tools hung in straight lines. "You will sleep there," he said, nodding to a narrow cot near the wall. Relief hit her so fast her knees weakened. "Thank you," she said before she could stop herself. He paused. "For what?" She did not answer. They ate stew in silence. He showed her where things were, where water was kept, what not to touch. His voice stayed calm, practical. When the fire died low, she lay awake on the cot, shivering under a thin blanket. She did not call out. Pride kept her still. Later, footsteps crossed the floor. She closed her eyes. Something heavy and warm settled over her. A wolf pelt, still holding heat from the fire. The steps moved away again. Lydia pulled the pelt close and breathed in pine and smoke and something wild. In the dark, with the wind howling outside, she realized something that unsettled her more than fear. The man who had bought her had also been the first to show her kindness, and she did not know what that meant for the life waiting ahead. Morning came before Lydia was ready. Gray light slipped through the small window. The fire had burned down to ash. Cold crept into her fingers and toes. She lay still, listening. The cabin was quiet except for the soft crack of wood settling. Owen was already awake. He stood at the stove with his back to her, moving with slow purpose. Coffee steamed in a tin pot. The smell filled the room. It felt strangely normal. Too normal for a life that had ended the night before. "You can dress behind the blanket," he said without turning. "Breakfast first, then work." She nodded, though he could not see it. She dressed quickly, hands stiff. When she sat at the table, he slid a cup toward her. Black coffee, strong. It warmed her throat and steadied her breathing. He ate without speaking. She copied him. When he finished, he cleaned his plate and hers. Another small thing. Another mark against the monster she had expected. After breakfast, he handed her a list. Short, plain, sweep, wash clothes, start bread. Do not go far from the cabin. "Yes," she said. He paused at the door. "Storm coming tonight. Stay inside after dark." Then he was gone, boots crunching into snow, shoulders disappearing into white. The day stretched long and quiet. Lydia swept the floor, washed clothes in cold water that burned her hands. She learned the stove, learned how much wood it needed, learned how to move in the small space without bumping into things that mattered. The cabin told her stories, not with words, with care. Nothing was broken, nothing was wasted. Even the walls showed signs of repair done slowly and right. This was a man who fixed what he could instead of throwing it away. By afternoon, snow began to fall again. Thick, heavy. The light faded early. She needed bread at the table, hands aching. When she noticed a trunk beneath the larger bed, it was not locked. She hesitated, then opened it. Books, more than she had ever seen in one place. Old covers, worn pages, poems, plays, stories of places she would never see. Her throat tightened. She was still holding one when Owen returned. Snow clung to his coat. He stopped when he saw the book in her hands. "I am sorry," she said quickly. "I did not mean to pry." "It is fine," he said. "You can read. You do not mind. You live here now." The words settled heavy in her chest. That night, the storm arrived in full. Wind slammed the cabin. Snow hissed against the walls. Lydia jumped at every sound. Owen fed the fire higher. He pulled a book from the trunk and sat across from her. After a moment, he began to read. His voice was low. Steady. The words filled the room, pushing back the wind. Lydia forgot the storm, forgot the day. She watched his mouth shape the lines, watched his hands turn the pages with care. When he finished, silence stretched. "Would you like me to read tomorrow?" she asked. He nodded once. "If you want." Sleep came easier that night. The days found a rhythm. He left at dawn. She kept the cabin. He returned at dusk. They ate. They read. They spoke little, but the quiet changed. It no longer pressed down on her chest. A week passed. On the 8th day, she slipped on ice while carrying wood. Pain shot up her ankle. She cried out before she could stop herself. Owen was there in moments. Sit. He knelt, hands gentle as he checked her ankle, wrapped it tight, helped her to the chair. You should have called, he said. I did not want to bother you. He looked at her then. Truly looked. You are not a bother. That night, he cooked. Awkward. Slow. The stew burned a little. She smiled and hid it. Another kindness. The storm broke 3 days later. Sun returned, sharp and blinding on the snow. Lydia stepped outside for the first time since arriving. The mountains rose around her, vast and silent. She felt very small. A sound cut the air. Low. Deep. A wolf stood at the edge of the trees. Gray. Still. Watching. Her heart raced. She did not move. After a long moment, the wolf turned and vanished. That evening, she told Owen, they keep distance, he said. Do not fear them. I am not sure what I feel, she admitted. He nodded. Mountains teach patience and courage. Later that night, as wind whispered through the pines, Lydia lay awake thinking of the wolf, of books, of bread rising on the table, of the man sleeping across the room, careful even in rest. She was still afraid, still uncertain. But something had begun to shift, and she did not know yet whether that made her safer or put her in greater danger. The first real test came with the thaw. Snow pulled back from the earth in slow patches. Water ran beneath ice. The mountains sighed as if waking from a long sleep. Owen began staying closer to the cabin, checking traps near her home. Lydia could walk again, though her ankle still ached in the cold mornings. She learned his habits without trying. He knocked snow from his boots twice. He left the last piece of bread for her. He never reached across her at the table. He always asked. One afternoon, while sweeping near the door, Lydia heard a low growl. Not the wind, not the stove. Her breath caught. She moved to the window and saw it. A mountain cat, sleek and silent, crouched near a trap Owen had set. Its tail flicked once, yellow eyes fixed on the struggling rabbit. Her heart pounded. Owen was hours away. She remembered the rifle on the wall. He had shown her how to load it, made her practice until her hands stopped shaking. She took it down now, slow and careful, just as he taught. She opened the door a crack. Cold air bit her face. The cat did not look up. She raised the rifle. Her arms trembled. She breathed, then fired into the snow beside the cat. The sound cracked through the trees. The cat sprang away, vanishing in a blur of muscle and shadow. Lydia stood frozen, ears ringing, smoke curling from the barrel. Footsteps came fast. Owen burst into the clearing, rifle ready. He took in the scene at once, the empty trap, the cat's tracks, Lydia holding the gun. You shot, he said. Yes. I did not hit it. I just scared it off. For a long second he stared. Then he crossed the space between them and pulled her into a tight embrace. It was sudden, fierce, his heart hammered against her cheek. You were brave, he said into her hair. He released her at once, color high on his face, as if surprised by himself. Good shooting. That night, the fire burned brighter. They read later than usual. Their eyes met more often. When their fingers brushed passing a cup, neither moved away at once. Sleep came slower. The dreams started after that. Lydia woke shaking, breath trapped in her chest. Her father's voice. The trading post. Hands grabbing. Laughter. She sat up, pressing a fist to her mouth. A shadow moved. Owen stood beside her cot, not touching. Are you all right? She nodded, not trusting her voice. He made tea. Simple, sweetened with honey. They sat by the dying fire until her trembling eased. They came again the next night. And the next. Sometimes he was already awake when she stirred. Other times her breath woke him. He never asked questions she could not answer. One night, she asked him instead, "Why did you take me? Truly." He stared into his cup for a long time. Turner said if I did not, he would sell you to the camps. I have seen what happens there. So you saved me. He shook his head. I did what I could live with. Weeks passed. Spring pushed harder. One morning, Lydia found a small wooden bird on the shelf by her cot. Smooth, polished. A sparrow, wings half lifted. She held it gently. It was beautiful. Owen watched her from the doorway, not meeting her eyes. Thought you might like it. I do, she said softly. Thank you. Something loosened between them. They began sharing more words. Not many. Enough. He told her of winters alone. Of a partner lost to an avalanche years before. She told him of her mother. Of a house once warm before drink took her father. The silence changed again. It became a place to rest. The trip to town came sooner than Lydia wanted. Supplies were low, pelts ready for trade. You do not have to come, Owen said. She lifted her chin. I will. The road down felt steeper than she remembered. The town smaller, meaner. They rode into the street together. Whispers followed. Looks lingered. Josiah Turner stepped out, smiling wide. Well now, he said. You look healthy, Mrs. Hale. Owen stayed silent. Lydia met Turner's eyes. Your concern comes late. A laugh rippled nearby. Her father appeared from the saloon. Eyes red, face slack. There you are. Come back to see your old man. Owen moved between them. We are here on business. Her father sneered. Mountain life suits you, girl. Lydia felt heat rise. She touched Owen's arm once, then stepped forward. My husband treats me with more kindness than you ever did, she said. The street went quiet. Her father cursed, turned away. They finished their trade quickly. As they left, an older woman touched Lydia's sleeve. Are you well, dear? Yes, Lydia said. Truly. On the edge of town, a gray wolf stood watching. Still, calm. Lydia held its gaze. Then it was gone. The ride home felt lighter. That night, by the fire, Lydia leaned against Owen's shoulder without thinking. He did not move away. Outside, the wolves sang. And Lydia realized the past had followed her to town. But it no longer held her. Still, as sleep took her, she sensed something else stirring. Something not finished yet. Trouble did not announce itself. It slipped in on a quiet morning, soft as fog. Lydia was kneeling near the cabin, pressing seeds into dark spring soil. Owen had helped her clear the patch weeks earlier. The ground still felt strange beneath her hands, but good. Alive. For the first time, she felt like she was building something that might last. Then she heard horses. Not one, several. Her body went still. Owen was high on the ridge, checking the far lines. She wiped her hands on her skirt and stood, heart knocking hard in her chest. 2 riders appeared through the trees. Then a third, slumped in his saddle. The lead man slid down poorly and nearly fell. Blood darkened his shirt. Please, he said, voice thin. My name is Caleb Marsh. I need help. Lydia hesitated only a second. She did not lower her guard, but she did not turn away. Get him inside, she said to the younger boy riding behind him. The wounded man burned with fever. The cut along his ribs was deep and angry. Lydia worked steadily, drawing on what her mother had taught her years ago. She cleaned the wound, packed it with herbs Owen had shown her, and wrapped it tight. The man groaned but lived through the afternoon. Owen returned at dusk. He took in the scene with one long look. Caleb Marsh, he said quietly. You know him. A trapper. Not close, but decent. They worked together through the night. Owen held the lantern. Lydia changed cloths. The fever did not break. By morning, Caleb's breathing slowed, then stopped. The boy broke down, shoulders shaking with grief. Lydia stepped forward, but he pulled away sharply. "This is your fault. Folks say you bring bad luck." The words landed hard. Owen moved between them at once. Enough. The boy would not look at Lydia again. They wrapped the body and tied it to a horse. He rode away at first light, grief twisted into something sharp and blaming. The cabin felt colder after that. That night, Lydia woke standing by the door. Bare feet on the floor, her hand resting on the latch as if it belonged there. Owen was behind her instantly. "Lydia, you were sleepwalking." "I did not know," she whispered. It happened again the next night. And the next. Whispers followed her even in daylight. She heard them in the wind, in the cracks of the fire. Cursed, harmful, bad luck. When a storm tore loose a section of the roof, her heart clenched. When Owen sliced his hand on a trap, she felt sick with guilt. "Maybe it is true," she said one morning, voice hollow. "Maybe I bring harm." Owen caught her hands, forcing them still. No. But doubt had already taken root. 2 weeks later, the air felt wrong. Lydia sensed it before she heard the horses. 5 riders approached fast. Too fast. The lead rider wore a badge. The boy from before. His face looked older now, harder. "By order of the sheriff," he said. "You are coming with us." "On what charge?" Lydia asked. "Witchcraft. Murder." The word echoed inside her skull. "I will wait for my husband." No waiting. Hands grabbed her arms. Rope had bit into her wrists. She did not scream. She would not give them that. They rode hard, not caring when her body struck against the saddle. They threw her into an abandoned miner's shack and tied her to a chair. "Confess," the boy said. "Say you bewitched him. Say you caused the death. Or we kill him when he comes." Hours dragged by. Her mouth went dry. Her shoulders burned. Then she heard it. A howl. Long. Low. Answered by another. Then more. The men shifted nervously. "Just wolves," one muttered, but his voice shook. Then Owen's voice cut through the night, calm and steady. "Let her go." Chaos followed. The wolves did not attack. They circled, watched, waited. One man bolted for the door and fell screaming. Another dropped his gun. Owen stepped inside like the storm itself. He cut Lydia free and pulled her against his chest. "It is over," he said into her hair. The men fled into the dark. They walked home under moonlight, wolves pacing beside them like silent guards. Lydia leaned into Owen's side, shaking now that fear had finally loosened its grip. Back at the cabin, Owen cleaned the bruises on her wrists with hands that never trembled. "I am not cursed," she said softly. "No," he said. "You are chosen." She rested her forehead against his chest, breath uneven. For the first time since her father sold her, Lydia felt something firm beneath her fear. Love was no longer quiet. It was awake. And it was ready to fight back. The danger did not leave with the night. It stayed in the quiet after. Lydia felt it in the way Owen checked the door twice before sleeping. And how he kept the rifle close, even while eating. In the way the wolves lingered longer than before, shadows moving between the trees as if listening. She slept beside him now, not touching much. Just close enough to feel his warmth. Close enough to know she was not alone. The nightmares returned. Not every night, but often. Sometimes Lydia woke with her heart racing, sure hands were reaching for her again. Other times she woke already standing, her body moving before her mind caught up. Each time Owen was there, a steady voice, a cup of tea, his presence anchoring her back to the room. One night, when the storm rattled the roof hard enough to shake dust from the beams, she reached for his hand without thinking. He did not pull away. "Tell me something real," she whispered. "Something good." He thought for a long moment, then spoke softly. "The first time I saw the sunrise from Eagle Ridge," he said. Sky turned purple, then gold. Made me feel small. In a good way, like the world had room for me, Would you take me there someday, when you are ready? That promise carried her back to sleep. Spring moved forward. Snow pulled back higher each day. Lydia began walking farther from the cabin, learning the land the way Owen knew it. He showed her which plants healed and which harmed, how to read tracks, how to listen. She learned his silences too. One afternoon, she found him sitting by the fire in the middle of the day, carving but not really seeing the wood. His jaw was tight. His hands moved too fast. "What troubles you?" she asked. He hesitated, finally spoke. "I had a wife once." The words landed gently but deep. "Her name was Anna. We married young, built a small place in Missouri. She died bringing our child into the world." Lydia did not speak. She moved closer instead, sat beside him. "I burned the cabin after," he continued. "Came here meaning to disappear." She rested her hand on his arm. "She would want you alive." "I know," he said. "Took me years to believe it." That night, they held each other longer than before. Nothing rushed, nothing demanded. The past loosened its grip a little more. The bounty hunter came with the first early snow. Lydia saw him from the window, a hard man on a black horse. His eyes measured everything. Too calm, too sure. Owen stiffened beside her. "Get the rifle." The man stopped just beyond the clearing. "Name's Cole Mercer," he called. "Got papers saying there's a reward on a woman taken from her father. Possibly dangerous." Lydia felt the room tilt. Owen stepped forward. "No such woman here. Only my wife." Mercer smiled thinly. "Funny thing about paper, it says the marriage ain't valid." More riders shifted in the trees. 3. Armed. "Here's my offer," Mercer said. "Pay me to leave, or I take her." Lydia stepped onto the porch before Owen could stop her. "I am the woman you are looking for," she said clearly. Owen turned sharply. "Lydia, no." She kept her eyes on Mercer. "My father sold me to pay his debts. When I found safety instead of cruelty, he called it witchcraft. When I chose my husband, they called it a crime." She rolled up her sleeve. Old scars showed pale against her skin. "These came from my father's hand. Not magic, not curses." One of Mercer's men shifted uncomfortably. "My husband will protect me," Lydia continued. "The wolves will too. But most of all, you should know this. My father does not have your money. He never did." Snow began to fall. Light. Quiet. Mercer studied her. Then the woods. Then Owen. "Not worth dying for," he muttered. "Boys, we're leaving." As they rode off, Mercer looked back once. "You got grit, woman." The wolves faded into the trees. Inside, Lydia's knees finally shook. Owen pulled her into his arms. "That was reckless." "It was necessary," she said. "I will not be taken again." That night, they spoke openly for the first time about fear, about choice, about what they were building. When Lydia asked him to stay, truly stay, he did. Their union was slow, careful, chosen. Morning came clean and bright. Later that day, Owen took out a small box. Inside lay a simple silver ring with a dark stone. "Will you choose me again?" he asked. "Not because you must." "Yes," Lydia said without fear. Always yes. They spoke vows meant only for each other. Mountains listening, wolves watching. The past did not disappear, but it no longer ruled them. They had chosen each other, and nothing would take that away. Winter returned gently that year, not with fury, with patience. Snow settled on the mountains like a held breath. The cabin stood firm against it, smoke rising steady from the stone chimney. Inside, life moved with a quieter strength than before. Lydia woke one morning to a strange stillness in her body. Not fear, not pain, just a knowing. She pressed a hand to her belly. Owen noticed at once. "What is it?" "I think," she said slowly. "I think our life is changing again." He froze, then moved carefully closer, as if afraid the moment might break. "You are sure?" She nodded. He did not speak for a long time. Then he sat beside her and rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you," he whispered, "for trusting me with this." The months that followed softened them both. Owen built a wider porch, reinforced the steps, made the cabin warmer. He carved a cradle with the same care he once gave to traps and tools. Lydia dried herbs, read by firelight, learned the steady patience of waiting. The wolves came often during that winter. Not close, never threatening, always watching. When labor came, it came fast. Snow fell hard that night. The wind howled through the trees. Lydia gripped the edge of the bed, breath tearing from her chest. Owen sent for the midwife before the second pain hit. Then he stayed. Every moment. "You are not alone," he said again and again. She believed him. By dawn, a child cried out into the mountain air, a daughter. Lydia wept with relief as Owen held them both, his hands shaking now for the first time she had ever seen. "Hope," Lydia said. "Her name is Hope." Owen nodded, unable to speak. The wolves gathered at the edge of the clearing that morning. Not a sound from them, just presence, just witness. Life grew fuller after that. The cabin expanded. Laughter replaced long silences. Tiny boots joined Owen's by the door. Lydia taught letters by firelight. Owen taught patience and quiet courage by example. The town never truly forgot them. But it changed its tone. People came less with judgment and more with need, advice, help, healing. Lydia gave what she could. Owen stood watch without needing to say so. Her father never returned. Some endings did not need words. Years passed. On a clear autumn evening, Lydia stood on the porch watching Hope chase falling leaves. Owen came up behind her, arms settling around her shoulders. "Do you ever think about it?" he asked. "The life you left." She did, but not with pain. "I think about the girl I was," she said, "and how she survived long enough to become this woman." "Nobody wanted to be the mountain man's wife," Owen said quietly. Lydia smiled, until she saw his gentle heart. He kissed her temple. They stood together as the sun slipped behind the peaks. Wolves howled once in the distance. Not wild, not lonely, belonging. Lydia had not been sold after all. She had been led home. If this tale touched your heart tonight, I'd be honored to have you join our little frontier family here. Your subscription helps keep these Wild West stories alive, and it means more to me than you know. If you'd like to hear more journeys of danger, love, and second chances out on the frontier, just hit that subscribe button before you ride out. Thank you for spending your time with me, partner. I'll see you in the next story.